Hi, I'm Andy Miocza and you are watching A News. Here are the headlines. Ukraine and the United States could sign the minerals deal within 24 hours. Denmark's king visits Greenland amid US tensions in a show of unity with the island's new leadership. Iran's foreign minister announces a new round of indirect nuclear talks with the United States this Saturday. Thank you for tuning in. Ukraine and the US could sign the minerals deal within 24 hours, according to Ukraine's Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. Speaking to local media, Shmyhal said his first deputy is on her way to Washington and that the details of the agreement that would grant the US access to Ukraine's critical minerals are being finalized. He said that the joint fund to be established will have equal managing and contribution shares, stressing that previous US military aid or debt will not be part of the deal. Shmyhal said that the American side can consider new military aid to Ukraine as a contribution to the fund.
Ukraine keeps control over all resources, natural resources and infrastructure, which are not part of the fund or deal. Ukraine only makes contributions from new rents and royalties for natural resources. Our contribution will be 50%. No debts or aid that was granted to Ukraine before the deal was signed are included in the deal. It is our important achievement reached in the talks with the partners. The deal only covers new contributions and new aid.
Following Russia's unilateral declaration of a 3-day ceasefire in May in honor of the Victory Day, Ukraine dismissed it as an attempt to manipulate, saying that the right course of action towards peace would be a 30-day ceasefire. Both Moscow and Kyiv are saying they're open to talks, while Washington is threatening to abandon its peace efforts unless there is real progress.
Ukraine is signaling readiness for negotiations, but not on Russia's terms. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said peace talks can begin in any format if Moscow demonstrates genuine intent, not what he called peace populism or a propaganda ceasefire for the May 9th parade. He stated that Russia must stop talking about its readiness for peace and start acting by agreeing unconditionally to a real and durable ceasefire. Moscow has declared a unilateral 3-day ceasefire starting May 8th ahead of Victory Day, a symbolic holiday in Russia. But Ukraine's leadership swiftly rejected the gesture. President Volodymyr Zelensky called it another attempt at manipulation, and Kyiv insists that peace must begin with a ceasefire lasting at least 30 days.
If Russia is so much willing to stop the war, why don't we start the ceasefire today? Why wait till 8th of May? Peace without justice is not peace, it's a surrender. And this is what actually Russia wants. They want Ukraine to surrender. They want Ukraine to capitulate. So we have bad news for Russia. Ukraine will not surrender. Again, this is our country. This is our home.
In New York, France pushed for stronger international pressure at the UN Security Council.
I call upon President Putin, ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. France cherishes the hope that the Council will unanimously demand a comprehensive, immediate, unconditional ceasefire.
Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia insisted Moscow remains open to diplomacy and that President Putin's truce could pave the way for direct talks.
Such a step could be the prelude to direct peace talks between the Russian Federation and Ukraine without any preconditions whatsoever.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov reiterated that Moscow's goal is a sustained long-term solution and that the peace process continues. However, he claimed there has been no response from Kyiv so far. Across the Atlantic, the US is also recalibrating its stance.
We are now at a time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict. If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators in this process.
While Moscow points to temporary truces, Kiev insists only a full and unconditional ceasefire can unlock real negotiations, with France calling Russia the sole obstacle and the United States warning it may step back from its mediating role. The spotlight is now on Moscow's next move and whether words will finally turn into action.
At least one person has been killed and dozens injured in the latest wave of Russian aerial attacks on Ukraine, according to the country's officials. 47 people, including 2 children, were injured in drone attacks on Kharkiv, while another attack on Dnipro killed 1 person. Both cities are frequent targets in this war. Germany's military spending has rapidly increased, making it the world's 4th largest military spender, the highest position the country has held since the end of the Cold War.
Germany has become Europe's biggest military spender for the first time since the end of the Cold War. Berlin's defense spending soared to $88.5 billion in 2024. That's a 28% increase from 2023 and an 89% rise since 2015. The country is now spending 1.9% of its GDP, approaching NATO's current target of 2%, and making it the world's 4th largest military spender. Germany's rapid military growth can be attributed to a special defense fund announced in 2022, which allowed for significant arms procurement and military research initiatives. In 2024, Germany also provided $7.7 billion in military aid to Ukraine, making it the 2nd largest donor to Ukraine's defense efforts behind the United States. On the global scale, the United States remains the world's largest defense spender, outlaying $997 billion last year. China takes 2nd place with $314 billion, and Russia takes 3rd with $149 billion.
U.S. President Donald Trump signed new executive orders seeking to ease the impact of tariffs on domestic automakers, allowing them to offset some of the costs and clarifying that potentially overlapping tariffs on Canada, Mexico, steel and aluminum will not stack.
In a move to ease the impact of his administration's auto tariffs, President Donald Trump signed 2 executive orders on Tuesday. The measures include a mix of tax credits and tariff relief on imported materials used in U.S. vehicle production. The policy shift, announced as Trump visited Michigan, a key hub of the American auto industry, comes just days before a new round of 25% tariffs on imported automotive components is scheduled to take effect. The measures mark the administration's latest effort to ease concerns among investors and industry leaders about Trump's unpredictable trade strategies. In addition to the tariff changes, the White House also celebrated its first trade agreement with a foreign partner, signalling a potential shift toward a more strategic and less confrontational trade approach. Under Tuesday's orders, automakers will receive credits of up to 15% of the value of U.S. assembled vehicles to offset the cost of imported parts, offering short-term relief as supply chains adjust.
Joining us from Lisbon to talk on the latest surrounding the U.S.-China trade war is Ricardo Evangelista of the Active Trades. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, just a few hours ago, Trump was holding a televised cabinet meeting where he said that China is doing very poorly, getting, quote, absolutely hammered. Today, we saw the latest data showing that the U.S. economy has shrunk by 0.3%. What do you make of Trump's assessment here and the consequences of his tariffs?
Hi, good evening. I think that Donald Trump's assessment is a clear display of what he is, which is more of an entertainer than a politician or a statesman. Therefore, I think it is something that is somehow detached from reality, and it's aimed at an internal audience, but it will not have any impact on reality. The reality is that the ongoing trade war with China is very negative for the U.S. economy. We saw today a contraction in GDP numbers for the U.S. of around 0.3%, and this contraction results precisely from many buyers of imports from China trying to close as many orders in the first quarter as possible, anticipating the so-called Liberation Day. So this already illustrates how negative for the US economy the current state of the affairs is. So Trump can try to sell us his alternative vision of reality. However, that per se will not change reality itself, which is very negative.
In the meantime, there are reports coming in that China is making a so-called white list of American goods it will quietly exempt from its own retaliatory tariffs. Among them, reportedly, some pharmaceuticals, microchips, and aircraft engines. Would you say this is a viable way for Beijing to mitigate the impact of the trade war?
Well, I think, look, I think both sides will quietly, as you said, take the necessary steps to minimize the negative impacts. Now, it's all good to have a policy of imposing tariffs on your sellers. However, you still need to buy certain things, so it makes sense to exempt those things from the tariffs that you are imposing. I think ultimately what we can get as the main takeaway from this dynamic is that the trade war is bad for both sides. This is not a situation where there is a win-win or there is one side that wins and the other side loses. I think both sides lose here. And yes, the best way to deal with it for both the US and China, considering the current environment, is to try to mitigate the impact, the negative impact of the situation by quietly trying not to lose face, removing as many items from the list as possible, especially those items that are very important and cannot be sourced elsewhere.
Well, Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Denmark's King Frederick X visited Greenland in a show of unity with the island's new government. The king's visit to the Danish realm's territory comes following repeated threats by Donald Trump that the United States will take control of the Arctic island.
Denmark's King Frederick X arrived in Greenland this week in a symbolic visit aimed at reinforcing ties with the semi-autonomous territory amid mounting pressure from the United States. The visit comes just days after Greenland's new Prime Minister, Jens Frederik Nielsen, met Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen in Copenhagen. The leaders agreed to deepen cooperation and firmly rejected any suggestion that Greenland could be sold. Nielsen said US comments on the island had been disrespectful and made clear that Greenland will never, ever be a piece of property that can be bought by just anyone.
What we have said quite clearly from the start is that we are ready for a strong partnership with the United States. We are ready for more development, but we want respect. I don't think you can have any partner where there is no form of mutual respect. I think the Greenlandic government has clearly stated that, and the Greenlandic parties have too. We will never ever be a piece of property that can be bought by just anyone. And that is the message that I think is most important to understand. Then we can talk about cooperation and mutual respect with each other.
Frederiksen echoed the message, reaffirming Denmark's commitment to invest in Greenland and support its path toward greater self-governance. During his time in Copenhagen, Nielsen met King Frederik X and the two returned to Greenland together. In Nuuk, the king praised the island's importance to the Danish realm, although he stressed that his trip carried no political message. During his visit, the monarch will meet with Greenland's new coalition government and a traditional community gathering known as a kaffemik. The visit follows a renewed US push for strategic influence in the Arctic. Earlier this month, US Vice President J.D. Vance visited a remote military base in Greenland, accusing Denmark of underinvestment. President Trump has repeatedly expressed interest in acquiring Greenland, even suggesting military action, despite Denmark being a NATO ally.
A 16-year-old suspect was arrested in connection to a shooting in Sweden's Uppsala that claimed the lives of 3 people and injured several others. Motive of the attack is still under investigation.
3 dead, multiple injured after shooting in Swedish city of Uppsala. The 3 victims were aged between 15 and 20. The incident took place at a hair salon in the city centre. Local police have detained a 16-year-old teenager suspected of shooting. According to public broadcaster SVT, the suspect is believed to have fled the scene on an electric scooter, prompting a large police operation in the area.
Our assessment is that this is an incident that is not connected to a risk to the public, but an isolated incident. But that does not mean that we are only investigating this crime, but we are working forward and sideways so that, in the end, many of the crimes that we are investigating also turn out to be connected.
Witnesses told Swedish television they had heard 5 shots and had seen people in the area running to take cover.
It doesn't make me feel good. Again, my fingers crossed that nobody had died, that it was, not that acts of violence of any kind are good, but it's made the worse when you know that people are dead, unfortunately.
It doesn't feel great. We've lived in central Uppsala for 2 years now, so it doesn't feel great to know that you can end up in someone else's conflict in the middle of the street, because this is in the middle of central Uppsala.
The motive behind Tuesday's incident remains unclear. Earlier this year, the European Parliament said that Sweden is currently battling a wave of gang violence. In 2023, Sweden had the highest rate of deadly gun violence per capita in the European Union. Although the number of fatal shootings dropped to at least 40 in 2024, it followed a record high of 63 gun-related deaths in 2022, alarming figures in a country of just 10 million people.
Pakistan says it has credible intelligence that India may launch a military strike within the next 24 to 36 hours. The tensions between 2 neighboring nuclear powers escalated following a deadly attack in Indian-controlled part of Kashmir that killed 26 people.
As India-Pakistan tensions rise, Islamabad claims in a late-night post that it has credible intelligence suggesting India is preparing to carry out a military strike within the next 24 to 36 hours. The planned action, Pakistan says, would use last week's attack in Pahalgam as a pretext.
Pakistan has credible intelligence that India intends carrying out military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours on the pretext of baseless and concocted allegations of involvement in the Pahalgam incident. India's self-assumed hubristic role of judge, jury, and executioner in the region is reckless and vehemently rejected. Pakistan has been the victim of terrorism itself and truly understands the pain of this scourge. We have always condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations anywhere in the world. Being a responsible state, Pakistan open-heartedly offered a credible, transparent, and independent investigation by a neutral commission of experts to ascertain the truth.
The attack at a tourist destination in Indian-controlled Kashmir sparked outrage across India. Authorities there blame Pakistan-based militants, an accusation Islamabad denies. Pakistan has instead called for an impartial international investigation. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised to track down those responsible, stating that both the attackers and their supporters will face consequences. Both countries have taken retaliatory measures. India has suspended the Indus Waters Treaty, while Pakistan has closed its airspace to Indian aircraft. Military tensions along the line of control have reportedly increased. Pakistan also warned that an Indian incursion could be imminent, but stated that nuclear weapons would only be used if the country's survival was threatened. The situation has drawn concern from world powers. The United Nations has reached out to both governments and offered to mediate. The United States and China have also urged both sides to exercise caution. Experts say that if tensions continue to escalate, the region faces the risk of another major military conflict with global ramifications for security and stability.
Another round of US-Iran nuclear talks is scheduled for Saturday in Rome. Ahead of those talks, the Iranian side is set to meet with the European signatories of the nuclear deal struck in 2015. Our Turaj Shiralilu has more in Tehran.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that the fourth round of nuclear negotiations with the United States of America will be held this Saturday in Rome, Italy. After a cabinet meeting, he said that he would also meet representatives of the European Troika of United Kingdom, Germany, and France on Friday before the Rome discussions. The meetings follow Mr. Araghchi's proposal on renewed diplomatic engagement with the European Troika as signatories to the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action nuclear deal with Iran. Araghchi said that as first step to diplomacy, he was ready to visit Berlin, London, and Paris. Western media reports indicate that the European Union is frustrated at being sidelined and excluded from the ongoing talks and is considering reimposing of UN sanctions on Iran's nuclear program. So far, Araghchi and U.S. Special Envoy for Middle East, Steve Witkoff, have held 3 rounds of nuclear discussions. Iran wants U.S.-imposed sanctions on its nuclear program to be lifted, while the United States wants Iran to halt its uranium enrichment. This demand has been strongly rejected by Iran as a red line. Mr. Araghchi has been traveling and visiting Beijing and Moscow during these talks and delivered messages by Iran's president and supreme leader to the Chinese and Russian officials. This signifies the role of these two nations as permanent members of the Security Council and as members and signatories to the JCPOA nuclear deal signed in 2015 in Vienna between Iran and world powers. Turaj Shiralilu, reporting for A News TV, Tehran.
A powerful sandstorm swept through Iraq's Basra and Najaf, causing hundreds of people to seek medical attention for breathing difficulties. Some 400 people were treated for suffocation-related symptoms, according to health officials. Cars struggled with low visibility as police forces were deployed to manage traffic. A major sandstorm is set to hit Egypt as well. The expected up to 80 kilometers per hour winds prompted school closures and poor air warnings across Cairo and the Suez region. Turkey's Baykar and Italy's Leonardo formally exchanged a strategic partnership agreement in Rome. The deal of the defense giants focuses on UAV technology.
At the 4th Turkey-Italy Intergovernmental Summit held in Rome, defense leaders Baykar and Leonardo officially exchanged the strategic partnership agreement. The ceremony took place at the historic Villa Pampili, attended by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. The agreement, originally signed on March 6, was formally exchanged on Tuesday by Selçuk Bayraktar, chairman of Baykar's board of directors, and Roberto Gingolani, CEO and general manager of Leonardo. The strategic partnership is set to combine Baykar's global leadership in unmanned aerial vehicle technology with Leonardo's deep expertise in mission systems, payload development, and aviation certifications across Europe. Baykar, known for its operational UAV platforms and advancements in artificial intelligence, will collaborate with Leonardo, one of Europe's premier defense technology companies. Together, they aim to capture a growing share of the European UAV market by merging cutting-edge design and advanced mission integration. This joint venture goes beyond UAVs. It also includes collaboration in electronic systems, smart payloads, integrated AI solutions, and multi-domain mission architectures. The project will be headquartered across several key Italian cities, including Ronci dei Legionari, Torino, Roma, Tiburtina, and Nerviano, establishing a strong industrial and technological footprint within the EU.
Georgia and Hungary are stepping up their economic cooperation with a focus on the Black Sea submarine cable energy project designed to link the South Caucasus to Europe. Our Nini Nikolaishvili reports from Tbilisi.
At Hungarian-Georgian Intergovernmental Commission for Economic Cooperation, Georgia reaffirmed its commitment to the project with far-reaching regional and European significance, the Black Sea submarine cable. Following the session in Tbilisi, Georgia's Deputy Economy Minister Gennady Arveladze emphasized that both Georgia and Hungary are determined to push forward with the development of the project, which aims to connect the South Caucasus with the European Union's energy grid. The Black Sea Cable strategic infrastructure project will transmit green electricity generated in Azerbaijan and Georgia directly to Europe, helping diversify the EU's energy supply and strengthening links between the South Caucasus and the European Union. Feasibility studies on the project is nearly completion. Arveladze underlined that beyond boosting energy security, the project enhances regional cooperation between Georgia, Azerbaijan, Hungary, Romania, and other partners involved. The both sides will do everything to support the development of this project, he said. All this comes amid the tensions and strained relationships between Georgia's ruling Georgian Dream Party and the European Union, making energy cooperation an area where dialogue remains open. The Commission session also covered trade, agriculture, tourism, and the prospect of direct flights to strengthen bilateral ties. Several agreements in agriculture are set to be signed with a high-level summit planned in June in Budapest, chaired by the two countries' prime ministers. It's Nini Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, News.
Joining us from London to talk on the Black Sea submarine cable project meant to deliver energy from the South Caucasus to Europe is John Kavalik of the Issue Insight. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we've seen diversification efforts not only in energy but also trade and other areas since the war in Ukraine broke out. What can you tell us of this Black Sea project and its significance for both the South Caucasus and Europe?
You're right. The Russia-Ukraine war has created opportunities that no one anticipated, because the expectation was that the Russian Federation will continue to be a primary source of oil, of natural gas, and other minerals and natural resources into the European Union and to non-EU countries. It's upended that. And you now have the European Union sourcing liquefied natural gas from the United States, across the Atlantic. So, this project, it's been around for a while. It's incredibly expensive, but it does it provides for this connectivity: Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, Hungary. So you've got two current members of the European Union, Georgia, which the European Union would like it to become a member. So that makes connectivity with Azerbaijan even more important. What Azerbaijan is doing in terms of developing its renewables, because Azerbaijan is known as a carbon country. It's known for oil. It's known for natural resources that it pumps out of the ground and exports. So renewables are important. That huge renewable energy, the Masdar solar array, what the country's doing is impressive. And if there's a way to make this work, that it'd be fantastic. But the technical elements to this, I think, are going to be what collide with the political excitement and the political usefulness for it.
Well, you've mentioned that this project is expensive. Would you say that then it counts like a future investment for the future? We've seen Bulgaria wanting to join with a possible few others interested. Would you say this is a deal for the long run?
Oh, absolutely. This defines, infrastructure. So it's something that you build it. You know that if you do the math initially, it may not make a lot of sense. But Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, has said that they're in for potentially a couple $2 billion to make this work. Azerbaijan, of course, has resources. Other countries do, and as you pointed out, it isn't just the 4 countries, but also Moldova, even potentially Ukraine could make use of it. Turkey could make use of it. So, from my perspective, the more connectivity you have between countries, particularly those that may not be the most friendly toward each other, the more connectivity you have between them, it makes it a little more difficult for them to have some problems, because the governments are always going to want to remember, hey, we've got this huge investment. We need to make it work. We need to sell what we've invested in. And so it can help soften some of those political obstacles and those political disagreements that are bound to come up. But where you've got a project that's going to connect multiple European Union countries, including some of the poorer ones, with an opportunity with renewables under the Black Sea. So, all the construction and all the work that comes with that, it's a project that they should continue to move along with.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights and opinions.
Thank you.
Over in Kyrgyzstan, construction has begun on a major new railway stretching over 500 kilometers, connecting China, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. Our Fariza Kalimurzina has more.
In the Suzak district of the Jalalabad region, work is now underway on dozens of bridges and tunnels. Together, they will make up nearly 40% of the entire railway line. Just within Kyrgyzstan, there will be 3 large tunnels totaling more than 37 kilometers. The full road will stretch over 532 kilometers, with about 305 kilometers running through Kyrgyz territory. The rest will be shared between China and Uzbekistan. As it's expected, more than 20,000 people will be involved in construction, and the total investment is estimated at $4.7 billion. Since Kyrgyzstan is landlocked, the new railway opens a vital path to global trade. It's seen not just as a transport project, but as a strategic bridge between East and West. China holds a 51% stake in the joint venture and sees Kyrgyzstan as a key part of Trans-Eurasian trade. Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan each hold a 24.5% share. The project has been a long time coming. Talks about it started as far back as 1997. The official launch finally happened in December last year, with all 3 national leaders present. They emphasized that the railway's importance goes far beyond regional ties. The southern corridor linking Kashgar, Torugar, Jalalabad and Andijan will offer an alternative to roads through Kazakhstan and Russia, giving access to markets in Turkey, the Middle East and Europe. Meanwhile, experts believe the railway could cut shipping time from China to Europe by up to a week. Back in 2022, President Japarov said Kyrgyzstan could earn at least $200 million on a year once the railway is operational. If that happens, the country could go from being a landlocked transit outpost to a major hub on the global trade map. Fariza Kalimurzana, A News, in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Now to Afghanistan, the country's cooperation with regional actors is on the rise. In one of the latest steps, Iran has announced plans to boost trade. Our Tamim Bahiz brings more from Kabul.
Iran is looking to significantly boost its economic ties with Afghanistan, setting an ambitious goal of reaching $10 billion in bilateral trade. The announcement was made during a recent conference on trade opportunities held alongside the Iran Export Capabilities exhibition in Tehran. A high-level Afghan delegation led by the Deputy Minister of Agriculture participated in the event. The conference featured a series of business-to-business meetings aiming to strengthen private sector cooperation between the two countries. This renewed push for economic engagement comes as several regional countries, including Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Azerbaijan, are also looking to enhance their trade and connectivity with Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Russia has also signaled its growing interest in the region. The country's first Deputy Prime Minister recently announced that once the Trans-Afghan Railway Corridor is operational, it will initially handle between 8 to 15 million tons of Russian goods annually. The corridor is designed to link the European Union, Russia, Central Asia, and South Asia. As these initiatives gather momentum, Afghanistan is increasingly positioning itself as a vital trade and transit hub for the region, an opportunity that, if realized, could transform the economic future of not just Afghanistan, but the wider region. This is Tamim Bahiz in Kabul for A News.
The Turkish national oil company Türkiye Petroleum and the Hungarian MOL will launch oil exploration and production at two sites in Hungary. Turkish and Hungarian officials signed the bilateral cooperation deal in Budapest in efforts to ensure energy security. This is the first European deal for Türkiye Petroleum, and the partnership is expected to last for years. In Kahramanmaraş, Turkey, the brand new Heydar Aliyev Primary School has been built with support of Azerbaijan. The school has replaced the one destroyed in the devastating earthquakes of February 2023.
A brand new school has opened its doors in Turkey's Kahramanmaraş, offering a fresh start to hundreds of children after 2023 devastating earthquakes. Built with support from Azerbaijan, the Heydar Aliyev Primary School replaces the old Sezai Karakoç Primary School, which was heavily damaged in the February 6 quakes. The new school is located in the Azerbaijan district, fittingly named, and is more than just a modern building. It is a powerful symbol of unity between Turkey and Azerbaijan and a big step forward for the recovering community. Designed to withstand future disasters, the school features 20 classrooms, 3 science labs, and 3 rooms for kindergartens. There is also a library, a gym, music and tech workshops, a health room, and large playgrounds for students to enjoy. Principal Murat Demirci praised the fast progress made during the rebuilding process. In just 16 months, the old school was torn down, the area cleared, and the new facility built to high modern standards. Currently, about 400 students are enrolled, but that number could rise to 1,500 as new housing in the area is completed and more families move back. More than just bricks and mortar, the Heydar Aliyev Primary School represents hope and resilience, proof that strong partnerships and quick action can bring real change to communities in need.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned to A News.